Did Nancy's nyash really show in Shanty Town? I know now why many of now watch this movie. So here am I with a little summary and review. So let's go. Shanty Town is basically a prostitution house in a suburb area. Now this is Carl, the man who is basically in charge of the place. And this is the madam of the prostitution house. Say hi to Mommy T. She's their spiritualist, their concussionist. She basically works all the juju and charms for them. Now, this person's identity is quite complicated. She's literally a detective posing as her sister, Esse. Esse is a prostitute and former madam of the prostitution house. Now, this is Shalewa. I don't know if you guys have seen her well. She's basically a role played by Nancy Isime. She's a prostitute in the prostitution house. This is Jackie, also a prostitute who wanted to be free. Now this, I'm going to be calling her political mama. She's basically aspiring to become the governor of Lagos State. This is another governorship aspirant, Chief Fernandez. And this is Femi Fernandez, his son, the guy who literally doesn't know what's going on. So what happens in Shanty Town? Well, the movie starts off with a woman who has twin daughters. Now, their area where they lived was being attacked by thugs, and these thugs wanted to rape the woman, and then they were later rescued by a man. So they ran for safety and they went to the riverbank. They tried to run away. While they were entering into the boat, these thugs were able to catch up with them. They shot the man that rescued them and then shot one of the twin daughters. The mother still managed to row the boat away, but unfortunately for her, she was still caught by those thugs. Now, the daughter she was with ended up in that prostitution house. Meanwhile, the daughter that was shot managed to survive and she was adopted. Now, this daughter that was adopted ended up becoming a detective, and she saw her sister Esse, who was in the prostitution house. She entered jail. She went to jail for drugs, and she told her story, and it was just so sad. And then this her sister ended up dying. She was literally in her deathbed when she met her sister. So this her sister was so angry, and she swore that she must go to the root of the problem and she must seek revenge for her sister. The detective decided to avenge her sister Esse's death by posing as her and going back to the prostitution house, thereby getting information and then arresting the people involved in the crime. In order to penetrate the prostitution house, posing as Esse, she then called the current madam and told her she's now out of jail and she wants to come back. The madam was quite shocked because she heard that Esse was already dead. She said, "No, Namio, I still there alive. I just dey come out for a cell." That was how she went and picked her up and brought her back. Everyone was happy to see her, including Mommy T. Mommy T was now telling her that she has finally stopped doing those oaths for those girls, but those girls just don't have the liver to escape. Meanwhile, Jackie had already been granted her freedom by Scar, but he had other plans. They had already even celebrated it, but unfortunately for her, he still caught up with her when she was about to go. She was set up and she was murdered and bisected. She was trying to call her friend Shalewa, but unfortunately Shalewa wasn't picking up her call and she was busy fucking Femi Fernandez. After Scar finished killing Jackie and leaving her body for the madam to carry, on his way back, this political mom, she kidnapped him and then convinced him on how they are going to be able to lure Chief Fernandez into her trap. Scar then told her that the best way to do that is to get his famous ring. According to him, that ring was being washed yearly with the blood of 7 virgins and 7 old women, and that ring is basically his odeshi. You can't harm him whenever he's wearing that ring, and anybody who kissed that ring, wow, that person is going to, be drained. The person will literally feel the effects of the juju. She felt it was a good plan and then let him go to go and, execute the plans. Meanwhile, after Shalewa finished fucking Femi, she tried to leave the house silently, but unfortunately for her, she met Chief Fernandez and he then ordered his boys to strip her naked. Now, that is a famous nyash and breast thing you guys are talking about. He basically did it claiming that she must have stolen something, but unfortunately for him, he couldn't find anything on her and he then left her to be on her way. Before Jackie left the prostitution house, she had given Shalewa 500k to give Scar so that she can be free from the prostitution house. But unfortunately, when Shalewa went, Scar now calculated the rent, the feeding and everything, and told her she was owing 15 million naira. She was like, "Where I want to see 15 million naira on top of shower work." He was like, "You don't see him now me get you." And that was how the prostitution continued. Anyway, Scar later called Shalewa again and told her that he has found a way for her to earn her freedom, that if only she can seduce Femi Fernandez and then wear her a certain touch and do as I say necklace, then she will earn her freedom. He told her Femi will have to get something for him, and once that is done, her freedom is certain. She was so happy and she said, okay, she's going to do it. Meanwhile, Ese was not faring too well. Scar had already accepted her back into the prostitution house, and he told her that this time around he's going to be collecting only 25% from her because she had come back, and then he's going to be setting her up with all these high-class politicians. Unfortunately for her, when the madam took her to the prostitutes gang where they were doing their audition, I think in a club or something, Chief Fernandez picked her, and Chief Fernandez is an abusive molester. This guy literally forced her and raped her. He handcuffed her, slapped her multiple times, flogged her ass, and then raped her. She was so much in tears. The madam picked her up and took her back to the prostitution house, and then this guy was like, why this guy they do like this, you know? And then this lady managed to get some information from Scar's apartment, and she managed to steal some money, and then she went to those detectives. You know, she is a detective, she's not actually essay. She went back to those detectives, handed them the information, and then told them the next step. Unfortunately, that was just the beginning. Once she had recovered, Scar then told her that Chief Fernandez still wants to see her again. She was still in tears, and he said she shouldn't worry, nothing will happen to her, and that was how he took her back to Chief Fernandez. Now, they met in a restaurant. Unfortunately, Chief Fernandez seemed to be having some trust issues with Scar and ended up cutting a part of his fingers. Meanwhile, Shalewa and Ese had met in the toilet of that same restaurant, and then while they were having a discussion, Shalewa played the audio message Jackie had sent her, and unfortunately it was the whole voice note of her death. They found out that the madam was in on it, Scar had killed her, and there was really no freedom after all. Scar still ended up wearing Femi the touch and follow necklace, and he ended up bringing his father's ring, and then Scar still ended up kidnapping Femi and Shalewa. Meanwhile, Femi didn't know that Shalewa was a prostitute too. So Ese went to question the madam, and the madam had to tell her that Scar would have killed her if she didn't support the killing of Jackie, so she had to be useful to him. And that was when she received a voice note from Shalewa telling her that Scar is in the restaurant and they are shooting up and down, and that was how all of them had to leave. She teamed up with her detective and they went to the scene of the shootout. Chief Fernandez came to the uncompleted building as Scar and the political mama had instructed him, but unfortunately for them, they didn't know that he had another Odeshi, this necklace that he's wearing here. So the minute he entered and they talked and they shot him back, and so the guy was shaking. So they were shocked, and that was how everybody started running. The detectives came in, fight started, the boys started fighting. These guys still escaped. So fortunately enough, Shalewa and Femi were rescued by the detectives. Scar was stabbed multiple times. He went back to his prostitution house, but unfortunately for him, Mama T and all the prostitutes in the brothel had already planned for him. The minute he entered thinking they are going to help him, they stabbed him each and said, "For freedom." And that was how the movie ended for Scar. So while in the police station, Femi here couldn't believe that his father was a drug lord, a prostitute controller, because he was the major owner of that prostitution house. I don't think I've told you guys this. He was the oga. Scar was just running it for him. So before we knew what was happening, Femi agreed to help the detectives while his father was throwing a party and stating his vision for running for the governorship position. That was how, as he played a video, it was literally the sex tape where he was raping and molesting a police officer, that is the detective posing as her sister, and that was how the police people came and they arrested him. End of story. Meanwhile, those detectives had seen Mommy T coming out of that uncompleted building, but they never arrested her. We never heard anything about that, but that's why I guess they might have a season 2. So here comes my review. I basically think this movie was superb. Like, the production team and the actors did really well. They really used high-class actors. Now, the star of this movie to me is this guy here. He really bodied his character. Like, he was everything about that character. In fact, it was even scary at a certain point. This guy played his role perfectly well. He ate and left no crumbs. And I know you guys know this guy, Chidi Mokime or something. Apparently, he stopped acting for some years due to a certain sickness known as Bell's palsy, a sickness that leaves a half of your face weak. But that didn't stop him. He delivered. Anyway, I'm giving this movie 8/10 simply because I think it's better than most of the Nollywood movies that have. It's even better than Anikulapo. It's better than Blood Sisters. At least the storyline is nice. I think I should even give it a 7 simply because it has no suspense. I think this movie has. You can literally guess what's happening, but it was good. Thumbs up. Bye. As for the Nyash is not Nancy's own, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification button. Bye.